Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful start to Djuma Game Reserve. And the reason it's a beautiful start is because, well, there's very, very fresh male leopard tracks going up the road. And we had some guinea fowls alarm calling. We had a few noises around, and so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to find this leopard fairly shortly. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Sebastian, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of you that have been letting us know that there were lions roaring around the dam cam but didn't appear on the dam cam. Hopefully they will. So remember that it is interactive and that you can then let us know if you see anything or if you hear anything or if you want to ask any questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat should you want to. Right, I don't want to sit around here for too long because these guinea fowl stopped alarm calling about 5-10 minutes ago. And so I think that this male leopard had just walked past, and so I want to try and keep up with these tracks as quick as I can and follow them as fast as I can, because I think this leopard is not very far from where we are at the moment, and I'm hoping that with a bit of luck he'll be just ambling down the road and still kind of moving as he goes. Well, there's an elephant to start. That's not a leopard. I saw something moving on the road and I thought, well, that's a very big leopard, but no, it's an elephant, so not going to worry about that. But our leopard is still kind of going on the road itself. Now I wonder if maybe the leopard will have gone off the road because of the ellies. So there you go. You can see lots of ellies that are just crossing the road in a big tight bundle at the moment. So there they all are, just blocking everything that's going on. So look at that, isn't that cool? Little babies in there. Are you the ones that are twins? Because there are twins that are around here somewhere that we've seen before, and they hang around with their mother. You can see those are almost exactly the same size. Well, not almost exactly, it's either almost or exactly, but they're a very similar size. And then there's a tiny little baby in amongst them as well. How cute is that? I love tiny elephants. They generally are the most fun to be around. They're always playing and messing around, and in weather like this morning, there's a bit of cloud cover, it's grey, it's overcast, nice and cool, and it's the perfect conditions for ellies to start feeding. But isn't that beautiful? It's a perfect way to start your day as far as I'm concerned. A little ellie roadblock, lots and lots of tiny little legs in amongst the big legs as well, and everybody is having a little feed along the edge of the road, as well as just having a bit of a sand bath. By the looks of some of those smaller ones, they're throwing some sand on themselves. But interesting the way that they are actually forming at the moment. You can see they're all kind of in a tight group on the road, and so I'm pretty sure this leopard will have gone off the road somewhere. It won't have stayed on the road with elephants around. Maybe it's just sitting somewhere next to us just watching these, or it cut onto the power lines and went sort of west from there towards our boundary area. I'm just trying to scan with my light around us, because the last track I had was just behind me here, and it looked like it was going just north of the block here. So I wonder if this leopard just went all the way around these ellies and will pop out again on the other side. I would imagine that could be possible. Leopards do it from time to time. They'll try, and if they see ellies, and most certainly would have heard these ellies, will just try and avoid them by just going around them and then coming out on the other side, or changing direction completely and moving off. Sometimes they'll even sit on a termite mound and just watch the ellies come past. Jared's buddy, you're wondering if this could be the herd where the baby ellie was born the other day, given how small that elephant is there. That elephant is tiny, although you can see it's already learned how to use its feet and its trunk to be able to try and break off branches. So mom has dropped a branch and it's now working that out. So I would imagine that this is an elephant that is a little older than our tiny baby, but I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm trying to see some of the distinct females that were in that grouping. So the mother had a very wide splayed set of tusks that curved outwards and not straight. So maybe if we can see where the mother is just now and her tusk shape, give us an idea of whether that is the little baby that we saw born a few days ago. No, so it's not her. You see those tusks on all of those females come down fairly straight. They're in a situation where they're not splaying out too much by the looks of things, so I don't think it is. Now, they're all coming down the road, so I want to just position myself that I'm off the road and allow them to pass by nice and safely. I don't want a situation where I'm blocking or sort of impeding their progress, and so what we're going to do is we're just going to pull off onto the left-hand side, or right-hand side, should I say. I'll get it right eventually, but we just pull off like this, and then we just stop and let them come past. Now I'm going to turn off all my lights because as they get closer I do not want to blind them in any way whatsoever, and so we're just going to be nice and patient. But look at this, isn't this cool? Like I say, what a way to start a day. And this is the best thing about safari, is that you're tracking a leopard and all of a sudden you come across this beautiful herd of elephants just meandering down the road. And you can see all sizes and shapes. Planes and trains, difficult to say which elephant is the leader of this herd. I mean, we don't know the elephant herds as intimately as we do something like the leopards or the lion prides, so tough to say. Generally, it's one of the bigger, older females, so this female coming right through the middle now, she's a large girl and very potentially could be her that is going, because as she came out onto the road and started to walk, so everybody else did as well. But look, they're coming right past us. There's the whole herd yeah, this is so cool. Look at that, isn't that the best way to start the day? You can see they're all around us, and so I'm keeping my voice down a little bit because, well, I don't want to frighten any of them, particularly the little baby, but they're just kind of filing past me ever so gently, not too perturbed by us at all. And you can see there's a definite communication, because they started out walking straight towards me, and then all of a sudden one just branched to the left, and the whole herd is gently then following them past that area. You can see Mom, she's rocking her front leg. Now, when they rock their front leg like that, sometimes it's an indication to the younger ones of where to go. So they rock their front leg, and it's almost pointing in a direction as to which way they need to follow. But look at this little one in front of us. It's just having the best time. It's kind of looking at us with his ears. And now Mom's saying, right, off you go. Time to move along. You've got to stay with the herd. You can't just disappear and do your own thing. How cool. This is very cool. Like I say, what a way to start the morning, Ellies. You can also see how quickly they just disappear into the bush. Absolutely amazing. Right, now our remainder of our herd is coming past, the young naughty bulls, as they bounce their way down the road. So we're probably going to carry on with our leopard tracking as these elephants are all going into the dense thickets. And so while we go and try and find this leopard, let's go across to Noel, who's got an indication that potentially something of predator nature might be lurking around.
Thanks, Tristan. Good luck with your leopard tracking. I'm thinking it might be Tingana, who we managed to find maybe 2 minutes after we wrapped yesterday evening. Good morning, everyone. I am Noelle, and on camera I have Davi. Good morning, good morning. So literally 2 minutes. We wrapped, we said goodbye to everybody, we turned around and we started going home, and we heard Impala barking, and then there was Tingana. And we just looked at him going, really? You really couldn't have just been around for the last 2 minutes of the show, but that's all right. And then he meandered up the road and scent marked. We handed him over to one of the game drive vehicles, so I'm hoping this morning that's what Tristan and I were hearing from those guinea fowls and the tracks that he has there. So what myself and Davi are keen for is we're keen for looking for Tundi. We are busy just now sort of in the area where her last den site was, and we have these two vultures sitting here. Now, it's quite a gray morning. This could be an indication that something around here is dead. Tundi has been displaying unusual behavior by bringing some of the kills back towards den sites. But I actually just think that because of the lateness in the warmth from yesterday afternoon, and then this little cloud cover coming over in the morning, this is just where they were resting. I don't think that there's actually anything dead here at the moment. So we've been sitting here quietly, and we've been listening to the birds, and we've been trying to sort of hear if any of the francolins have been going a little bit crazy and things like that. I'm not hearing her. The reason why I'm checking out this spot again is over the Christmas holidays, what Tundi did is, do you remember Christmas Day? We had that amazing sighting of Tundi in the cub, and then she disappeared for like a week. And the last time we saw her, she moved up in here. So Scott and I were focusing and moving around the Milwaukee. Then on New Year's Day, then the New Year's Eve, Scott got that really great sighting with the kill, and then Tundi ended up popping up. It was just over here, that Steamboat kill. And then New Year's Day, we came and she was here. So what I feel like she's doing is she's moving away from here for a little while and then coming back, and then moving away and then coming back. That would be my guess. So we're checking. I'm not seeing her. It doesn't mean she hasn't done that, but it doesn't mean that she might have moved off somewhere else. So we're going to go check Ingwe Alley, and we're going to go check where she had that kill yesterday and see what we can come up with. It's going to take us a little while to meander out of our little area here. Let's see if I can reverse without hurting anybody, namely Davi on the back. If we lose the cameraman, then we don't have a show. All right. Alright everyone, don't forget we're live and interactive, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on the YouTube chat. We love your questions and your comments. And I just want you to have a look as we slowly drive through here at the type of area that Tundi would choose for her den site. It's got little open bits and little thickets, drainage lines and that mixed in with the actual Mulwati itself. Lots of hidey holes. When I come around the corner, I'll stop so that we can see that log where we were getting all those amazing sightings. And you're going to notice how well placed everything is. Leopards are masters of disguise. We do know this. And we do know how well not only she camouflages herself, but think of how much darker and tinier and fluffier that little cub is and how well it blends in with, say, that log. So that's where we were getting all those beautiful sightings. But I'm hearing lots of bird calls, but no alarm calls. So I think let's head more down to the southern end of the Mulwati and then come around and see what we can do there. And it's a little bit lighter now. It's going to be slightly easier to track. Where Tristan was tracking earlier on the main road there's some nice thick soil. And so I believe that's what he's still doing at the moment. So let's head on over to him. And hopefully he manages to catch up with Tingana before he disappears.
Well, hopefully, I'm sure if it is Tingana. I think it is. I surmise that it's Tingana. But I'm trying to find his tracks. Here we go. His tracks are on the road now. So we've just driven through all of that elephant chaos, and his tracks remain on the road, I think on the left-hand side here. Looks like his tracks. It's very difficult with the lights at the moment. So I'm kind of half out the car. I must be careful for stumps if I'm going to be leaning out the car like I am now. So I'm trying to just check if he is somewhere here. Seb, why are you laughing at me?
You know very well.
And I know, yes, I do know why. Fair enough. I'll take it on the chin because falling out of the car is funny. Now, for those of you who don't know, I managed to fall out of this very vehicle while following some wild dogs. I'm pretty sure that most of the world knows, so I'd be very surprised if you didn't know about it. But I was following dogs and I was doing the same kind of thing. I was like leaning to the right a little bit to see what was going on, and I ended up completely falling out. So at least we're on a road this time, so I don't have to worry. Right, our tracks continue this way. I can still see them going, so we're going to keep following them. They look fairly fresh. I mean, they look as fresh as one could ask for when it's following a leopard track. The problem is that we're getting really now close to our western boundary, and so I don't know if he's still going to be here. Hopefully, I'm just going to find him sauntering down the road, and his little spotty bum will be around the corner. That's what I'm hoping for. Whether or not that's going to be the case, I'm not quite sure, but at least we have tracks for a leopard. It's exciting. It makes me always very happy to be out first thing in the morning, is because you can find tracks, and then it's such fun to try and decode the mystery of the night before and what actually went on and how you kind of have to try and find these leopards. And sorry, ants. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get around you guys. You guys are all over the place. But here in front of the car is a massive line of ants that are going along. So they look like the predatory ants that we get here. So there you can see them. I'll put some light for you, Seb. So there's a massive line of them, and they're going back and forth, back and forth. You can see some of them are going somewhere and others are going a different way. Now the reason for that is probably they found a food source, and they are basically now trying to raid that food source and then take it back to the nest, and then others are going and doing the same thing. So that's why there's this constant kind of commute with them as they go back and forth. But look at how many ants there are there. There must be thousands and thousands, in fact hundreds of thousands of ants going back and forth. Busy morning on Vuyatela Access this morning. We've got elephants, so from the sublime to the ridiculous. Massive elephant herd walking down the road, and then you've got these guys, which, well, they're doing probably the same amount of tracks on the road, but they are much, much smaller. Now, our leopard continued past them, so I'm just trying to wait for them. If you look on the far left of this line, most of them are starting to cross the road. So you see there's the line is starting to disappear slowly but surely. So if we're patient, which we shall be patient, because it's not always about all the big animals, you've got to sometimes let the little animals cross the road as well. If this was a herd of elephants, we wouldn't disturb them. So the fact that they are starting to move off from that sort of left-hand side of the road means that I can sit and just wait for them for a few more seconds, and then I'll go around them and I won't have to squash their entire line and break the chain of pheromones that is being passed from one to the other that allows them to be able to kind of work out where they're going. Right, Seb, I think we've got sufficient space. So, Ravinda, you say this is the great migration of Djuma. Indeed, it is, isn't it? It's a serious migration that's going on here with our ants, and they've done a successful crossing, not as filled with... Oh, now my nectarine almost fell out. So when I'm on drive, I take some fruit with me. I always take a nectarine with me, or maybe an apple or something, just because I get a bit peckish on drive. So it's almost lost it out the side of the door. So my nectarine is doing a Tristan impersonation and is getting thrown out of the vehicle. So luckily that didn't happen and we managed to save it. But yes, our elephants are fine. Now you can see here the leopard defecated in the road, so it's certainly going to be not far. I want to see how fresh. Oh, this is very fresh. Look at that. That is as fresh as you can ask for. It is steamy. Oh, back a little bit. Sorry, Seb. I get excited when I see these things because it means that there's a leopard not far away. So there we go. That's as steamy as you could want it to be. I'm going to take my light away, Seb, because there's enough light now. But there's a few flies landing on it, and you can see it's still wet. So that means that this leopard is not too far away, hopefully. Like I say, it's going to be touch and go whether we find him before he crosses, but we're going to try our very best. Renee, you're wondering if Shadow and Cub have been seen recently? Yes, they were seen yesterday morning. If anything's to go by. So they were seen yesterday morning by Noel, and then from there they went south into Little Gowrie, I believe. Yesterday afternoon they were on the eastern bank of the Mulawati, just south of Gowrie Main, and just having a bit of a relax and a rest. So that's kind of where they are and where they've been. Now it looks as though this leopard has gone off the road here. You don't see any more tracks. There's a big termite mound behind me that I want to check, but let's have a look here quickly. There's some impalas in front that are quiet. Alright, so I think this leopard has taken a different route. We're going to try and pick up the tracks again, see where he's gone. And while we do that, although look, they're all standing to attention. Look, you see this? So they look as though they've seen something recently. Look at how all of them are up and staring. There we go, they're shouting. They definitely have seen something. So let's go quickly forward here. Maybe there's a leopard walking somewhere in this area. They definitely look like they have seen something. Maybe not right now, but they're aware that there is something around. Oh, Seb, I can feel it. There's a leopard here somewhere. Where are you, leopard? Just need a little flick of that white tail just to come up, and we'll be for away. So I'm just checking all of these thickets because this leopard could be anywhere here. They were staring off into this block a little bit. Do you see any tracks there, Sam? No tracks there. That's all Impala tracks. Okay, let's go through this block a little bit and see what we can find. Maybe I get lucky and we'll bump into it. Okay, Spotlight, don't get caught in the steering wheel. There's enough of that. It's like a circus act this morning, from juggling fruit to trying to unravel spotlight cables while driving off-road and talking. It's all going a bit pear-shaped, actually, so to speak. Excuse the pun. Right. Come on, leopard. I know you're here. You just got to show yourself. Maybe what he did is saw the impalas and just did a little loop around. Given the size of that dung on the road, it looks like he's had a good meal at some point. So maybe he's not interested in feeding. It's more a situation that he's trying to just scent mark. And so when he saw the impalas, he would do a little sort of... Oh, there's a scrub here. Right. I don't see anything yet. I'm going to check around here. There certainly is something. Those impalas were alarm calling, but it looked like the tail end of their calling, like they've lost where that leopard went, and so I'm going to try and find it. Let's go across to Noel, see if she's had any luck yet this morning. I believe she's taking it slow and steady, and hopefully Tundi will pop out in front of her soon.
definitely slow and steady, Tristan. We have stumbled across this tiny little gap in the cloud cover with some of the most amazing colors that are popping out that we just wanted to share with you. So let's take a little moment and enjoy. Bit of bird song coming through in the background, particularly a black-headed oriole. Oh, absolutely stunning. Look at that. You see, it's the one little gap. So yeah, Tris, slow and steady, and I know Tingana is probably just there for you, and I'm pretty sure you will find him. Please enjoy the tracking. I'm very happy to carry on with everybody with me while you get off the vehicle and on the vehicle the way you need to do to be able to focus on the tracks properly. So we've very slowly come around from the eastern side of where Tundi was supposed to have been moving, and we're not really picking up anything. It's not to say we didn't miss something, but we're not picking up anything. So we are going to start moving back towards where she had the kill, because it's very possible that she came and drank at the pans here and then moved back to the kill. It's also possible that she's just gone into the drainage system here, and then we'll pick her up maybe closer to Twin Dam, so we'll have to wait and see. So where that kill was isn't far from here, so if you come with me, we will go and have a look. So now, I haven't been to this kill site yet, or what do we call it, a crime scene? I haven't been to this crime scene yet. So maybe all of you that watch often can help guide me in and let me know if I'm going in the right direction. So I'm going to be looking for the vehicle tracks and possibly Tundi tracks to help us, like these vehicle tracks here, straight in front of us, to help find where that kill was. And then, of course, I've got Davi on the back, and Davi sits up higher than I do, so he's going to be looking around. And as we come in, I'll talk a little bit, but you're sorry you're going to have to see the back of my head. I also just want to be a little bit quiet, for just in case. Because sometimes Tundi's in an excellent mood, and sometimes she needs a little bit more space. Oh, sorry. Before I forget, we were asking about sausage trees. This is our sausage tree. The one and only sausage tree that I know about. And apparently has never fruited. And to be honest with you, when the first few times I drove past it, I didn't even take notice. I kind of went, oh, I need to come back and see what tree that is. And then Vildi was actually the one that was telling me that this is a sausage tree that's never fruited. It's very interesting, but the leaf structure is the same as normal sausage trees, the bark, everything. It's not a very large tree. It will get bigger, but it needs other sausage trees to be able to pollinate and to have fruits. Now, I did ask, has it ever flowered? And I actually didn't get an answer to that. I have a feeling possibly not. So maybe it's just a sterile tree, and if it is a sterile tree, it would be the first that I've heard of. Not to say it can't happen. I don't know if any of you are dendrologists that are out there that might have any answers for that. Okay, let's carry on with our investigation. Alright, now it looks like, sorry, what is going on here? There we go. Just popped out of gear. From what I can see from the vehicle tracks, there's definitely vehicles coming in and sort of turning here. So I believe that kill must have been somewhere around here, although yesterday there's another few spots that I saw where the guys were going in, but it was only one or two vehicles, so that might be from yesterday afternoon when she was moving around and they had to relocate. So I think what we will do then is we will check those one or two spots and see if she's around. I'm not seeing any remnants of a kill at the moment. And I do believe that Tristan said he heard hyenas in this general direction this morning. Maybe it's gone. Let's go check those other spots and see what happens. And then we'll head down towards Twin Dams. Alright, let's head back over to Tristan. Maybe he's having better luck with Tingana and see how that's going. And hopefully we get Tundi in the meantime.
Well, we've lost the tracks and the impalas have gone quiet. We can't find any signs, so I'm shooting around. Well, not shooting. I'm driving fairly carefully because I'm also trying to spot towards Triple M, which is our boundary road, just to see if this leopard didn't just go straight across and is now crossing towards the main road. We might, unfortunately, see a situation where his tracks go over the main road and into Arathusa or Simbambili, but let's just try and see. Maybe we get lucky and get a glimpse of him. Either way, though, his direction of movement is in this way, and so he's not going to be around for much longer, I don't think. I think he will cross eventually, but let's have a look. I'm interested to see who this actually is. Now, I would imagine that it should be Tingana, given that Tingana was seen late last night on Zoe's Road coming north, and so I would imagine that Tingana would be the one that would have come up to quarantine and then walked. What makes me doubt a little bit is that I haven't seen tracks for Tingana or Tingana himself in this northwestern corner for, I don't even know how long now, months since he was last on this side of the world. And so I'm interested to see why he would be up here, or if it's maybe this new male that's hanging around. Could have been him that came up this way. If it is him, he's made a very bold statement by defecating right in the middle of the road. I see something on the road there, Seb. Hold on. I'm just going to turn back slightly. This is... no, it's nothing. It's just a branch on the edge of the road. So Triple M has got lots of these little leopard branches. Now, when I say leopard branches, they're these branches that are just off the edge of the road that look like a leopard could possibly be walking along those areas. Now, I've got the spotlights out because, well, it's not really bright enough to see tracks, and this just gives me a bit of contrast to work with. And so if he has crossed, then I can see where he may have crossed and which way he's actually gone. So James, you're wondering about the Hukamuri male. So for those of you who don't know who the Hukamuri male is, he's this unknown leopard that's been given that name. Why he's got that name, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't really make that much sense to me because, well, the Hukamuri is a drainage line off Singita, and so, yeah, no idea why he's got the name. But anyway, I digress. So you wanted to know if he's been around Djuma recently. I don't know, to be honest with you. We've got very little updates from any of the guys regarding him or where his whereabouts have been. I know he was seen mating with Ingrid Dam's young female, or the Shadulu female as she's now known, and so she's been hanging around sort of Arathusa airstrip from what I can gather, and I would imagine maybe then he's been somewhere close to there, and so that's not very far from Djuma at all. It's very possible that he's been sneaking onto Djuma. I however doubt that it is him. I have a funny feeling that these tracks we're following now should be Tingana's, but I'm just interested to see why he's up in this direction. If somebody else is here that he's maybe just following around, or he heard something or something like that, you never know. It's just an interesting kind of take on what's going on. Found where our Ellie herd has just crossed over. This is where they came from, obviously during the night, so maybe he's somewhere in this general vicinity. Come on, come on, come on, little leopard, pop your head out somewhere. Theoretically now, if he were to come out, there's another elephant right there, so we'll sit with this while we just maybe have a little listen in case. Why are you grumpy already so early in the morning? Now, we're just going to stop and listen, and maybe there's going to be some more alarm calls and we'll enjoy another Ellie while we do that. But I believe some of you are wondering about the sort of naming process and how this all works with these leopards, and so basically they're all given a name, not because they are pets, not because they are in any way sort of trying to be anthropomorphized. They are basically IDs for these animals, if we want to put it simply. So it's because out here we're trying to sort of work out family lineages, we're trying to work out who's mating with who, and just to try and get an idea of roughly what's going on around us. Also, as a guide, when we were guiding, is that, you know, potentially, let's say I see a leopard and it was a really great sighting, then tomorrow morning that same leopard is walking around, then the chances are I'm not going to go to that same leopard if I can identify that it is that leopard, because I'll let everybody else else have a chance, and maybe I want to go and try and see if I can find a different leopard. And so it just helps for everybody to understand who's who and where they fit within the ecosystem and in territories and those kind of things. So that's kind of why they're given names. Who gives them names is always a big debate. Generally what it is the where the leopard is born. So if it's a cub, let's say on Djuma, then the Djuma guides generally give it a name. Us at Wild Earth, we don't actually really participate very much in naming of anything. It's supposed to be the person who sees the cub first. In some places will give names. It's also in other places it's the most senior of the rangers will give a name. Here, like I said, at Wild Earth, we try and avoid getting involved too much because apparently we step on the toes of some of the other guys. So we don't really do too much. So we let the Djuma guides do that, or the guides that are around us. So in the case of Shadow's cub, theoretically the guys from Arethusa are the ones that should be naming that cub. And I know a lot of you have been asking me whether or not it has been named, whether or not it's going to be named. I probably find that they're just going to have a rangers meeting fairly soon. They normally have one once a month, and so you probably find with the Christmas break and New Year and all that, they just haven't had that meeting yet. And so as soon as they have, then she will be given a name. I hope. I will keep you all up to date if she does, and we'll be able to then know exactly what she's called. But that's basically how it works, and why we do it is for that reason. Right, Eddies have moved on. So, SoCal Kevin, you want to know how we distinguish between each individual leopard's tracks? Well, we don't, really. There's very, 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 very few people in this world that will be able to look at a male leopard track and be like, that's Tingana, Mvula, or whoever it may be. Obviously there are slight size differences, so like if we look at something like Hosana and Tingana's still got a bigger foot than Hosana, even though Hosana is getting big now. At the end of the day, Tingana is much older than Hosana. Hosana's not fully developed yet, and so that's why Tingana does have a bigger foot, and so that you can kind of work out. Why we often say what the tracks are and who it could be is we use territories more than anything else. So you know, if I'm tracking a male leopard on quarantine, 99% of the time it's going to be probably Tingana, given that that is the core of his territory. Of course there could be a situation where we might track it and we find a Mvula, we might track it and we find this new Hukumuri male. That can happen, but we go along the sort of surmising that these are the tracks because of the area that we're in. One. Two, the size of the track that you're looking at, and then the behavior of the track. So this track, like I was saying, is if it is a different male, it's a very bold statement because he's defecated right in the middle of a very big road, which is a road that if you're the dominant male, you're going to travel on. And so if you're defecating right there, you're sending a message that this is my territory. Any other leopard that walks here must smell this and know this is my area. And so it's a bold statement from a leopard. When they do that, that's when they're really trying to just say, listen, I'm stamping my authority as the dominant individual here. Now I do apologize also if you see the camera shaking a little bit. That's because we are on Triple M, and Triple M is about as smooth as, well, I don't even know what, but it's not very smooth at all. It's about as smooth as a piece of Lego, and it feels like standing on a piece of Lego when you drive on this road sometimes. It is not very pleasant to drive on here all the time, so you know, we will hopefully be rewarded for being on this road by having Tingana pop out somewhere close by. Right. I'm going to just continue here. I thought maybe this would be an area that he would cross if he did come. This was where Tingana always used to love to cross, and Mvula, both of them, going towards One-Eyed Pan and Simambili. So I'm just going to stop here and have a really good look if there's any sign of tracks. And while I do that, let's go to Noelle, who's not standing on Lego and has a far smoother ride as she goes about her business finding Tundi.
Territory. Hello everyone. So we've just picked up on some leopard tracks with Davi and I just been talking. Where we're headed now is towards Treehouse Dam, and where we had Tingana yesterday was over here. So he came out of Little Gowrie, he came up Zoe's, he came through here, he came around into the back, up towards Quarantine where we were hearing the guinea fowl this morning, and then Tristan obviously tracked him down via tele-access, and now Tristan's thinking that he went across Triple M. It makes a lot of sense. It's not his whole territory, but it's enough of a demarcation for him to not lose anything, and then he can carry on going where he's going, unfortunately. Okay, so we're still not picking up anything on Tundi. There was nothing there. We couldn't even see the remnants of a kill. It's possible we missed something, but we didn't see anything. So we're checking Treehouse Dam, and then we're going to go down and check Twin Dams, and then we're going to work up the Mulwati and see what we can find. So let's head on to Treehouse. Maybe we get lucky and Shadow and her youngster are there. Maybe Hasana. You never know. Hasana does have that weird fixation with Tingana and likes to follow him around. So we might be bringing up the rear, smelling a little bit. I'm kind of hopeful that the buffalo will come back soon. I think that's my wish for the new year. Lots of buffalo sightings on Djuma. Had not enough rain, but we've had some rain. So it's possible. Not picking up those tracks again, so they've come out of this drainage system here, this inflow section. And our hippo that we were seeing inside of Treehouse, I haven't been seeing very much at all. Any tracks of him coming this way, then I keep not catching him in the actual water. So maybe we get lucky today and he's in there. Or maybe we get lucky and get him out of the water again. He likes the inflow area, busy eating and checking on his little bit of territory that he has. It's very quiet this morning. Very quiet. I feel like everything's taking a deep breath, trying to figure out what they want to do. And that happens a lot when we get this difference in temperature and this difference in weather. So when we have these cold or rainy days and then everything sort of spreads out and then we get not enough warmth but just a little bit of warmth and then everything will come out and say hello. And then when it starts to cool up again and you can actually see collections of some larger clouds around the horizon there that moved somewhere, so then the animals will spread out again. And that's why we get this weird discrepancy between having everything and then having to work really, really hard just to get a little something. Can we hear those weavers? Alright. Just here in front, there's a dead tree at the end of the dam wall. And they're all sitting in there. Maybe let's creep up on them and go and have a look at their activity. Get a little bit of that sound. Just checking nicely. Everyone, I'm really sorry. I think the gremlins are starting to come out and about, so excuse those glitches. They happen from time to time. We are live and interactive, so whatever happens to us, unfortunately, you see. Beautiful weavers. They look like village weavers. Listen, listen. Oh, Egyptian goose, be quiet. I love that sound. Not the Egyptian goose sound, but the weaver sound. They're just so busy and industrious. Oh, that's gorgeous. There's the geese again in the background. Alright, so that's a female weaver there. No black around the face or head. Yeah, you're saying these are such lovely little birds. Fantastic, they are such lovely little birds. So the female's there, no black around the head, and some yellow, but a little bit more brown. This female on the right-hand side is busy preening herself and rearranging her feathers. And what you'll see with a group like this is you're going to see more females than males. I'm trying to find you a male now. There was one earlier. Yes, they're so beautiful. And then quiet for a second, just checking on everything. Eduardo, they are more vibrant than usual. Basically, you're asking, are they more vibrant than usual for a reason? That's because right now is a lot of the breeding season, and so you want to have a more brightly colored, especially for the males, so that they're able to attract the females. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Let me get my little book out now that I'm thinking about it, and they've now flown off. So they just basically... We're getting ready to go out and look for food and nesting material, and they're going to go and do that now, and that's one of the reasons why we're getting all those wonderful noises. Okay, so here we've got the village weaver at the top. When we first started showing you the birds, you could see one male up there, and notice how the black comes just above the eye, and it's a very red eye, and then that female is going between a little bit of white, and then we saw some that were a bit more yellow. When you come down to the southern masked weaver, which they can be confused with, the females are different in shading, and look, it's still both red eyes, but the males, the way that the black fits around the head and the beak is very different. Okay, can we see that there? There's more black on the front, and as opposed to the yellow that's up in there. So it's a very slight difference, but it's a difference. And that's one of the ways to tell. I still every now and then get confused. It happens, but that's one of the ways to tell. We were talking about the rules of birding yesterday. Those are tiny little things that you need to look at. All right, let's carry on. Sherry, good question. Sherry, you're asking, are weaver birds related to the canary family? I actually couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm not very good with the scientific and taxonomic breakdown of birds in particular. Other things I'm much better at. They're both seed-eating birds, grass seed-eating birds. Weavers are much bigger than canaries. I don't think they're far removed from each other, but I'm not sure how closely related they are. I can have a look and do my homework for you tonight. Ooh, that's something else I was hoping would pop up. I'm hoping the wild dogs come back from the eastern side and come and join us. I haven't seen them in a while. It'd be nice to chase them about. Maybe get a kill or two. I haven't heard any updates on Shadow or her youngster. I don't know if she's still in the little gallery. We're going to check around Twin Dams. We might get lucky again there. We're still not leaving our hunt for Tundi. We're just expanding and moving around. And then I haven't had any updates on Inkahumas. They were in Biffleshoek last time I heard, which is to our north. Hopefully they moved down for us as well. And then the sticks moved into Little Gallery, and I am hoping that they push back up to us just for a little while longer. I don't think our sighting was good enough yesterday, long enough yesterday. Oh, Michael, you were asking about the sticks and the Birmingham boys. Yeah, look, as far as I know, the sticks and the Burmese moved into a Little Gallery, and as far as I know, are still in that area. But I haven't heard an update from anyone else. I will switch over to one of our other channels when I get a little bit closer and ask them. But we also might just get lucky, and when we get towards Twin Dams, they might be there. Shadow and the youngster might be there. Tundi might be around. There's a lot of, what was Tristan saying, a lot of juggling balls earlier? There's a lot of juggling sightings in the air today. We might also get, there's a little pool at Twin Dams. Obviously, we've got the big dam and the little dam just behind it. And we had a huge amount of common wax bills there the other day along some of the grass stalks. So I'm going to see if we can see them. Common wax bills are actually not that common. It's not one of the wax bills that you see a lot of. And there was a little colony of them there. I'd like to get that on camera for you as well. We had to start our bird list for 2018. All right, seems as if Tingana has given Tristan a little bit of the slip, but I'm confident that he'll be able to find him. Let's head back to him and see what's happening in more detail that side.
He is giving me the slip. Naughty Tingana. He's being a naughty tortoise, as they say. And so I haven't managed to find anything crossing west of us, which means that maybe he's just sitting here watching these impalas, and they kind of caught a whiff of him. They actually didn't see him, and that's why they weren't alarm calling as much. So I'm back in the same place where we lost the tracks for the last time, just seeing what's going on, and it seems all fairly quiet. There's a few impalas jogging about, having a bit of morning exercise. It looks like Rebecca and Jerry, when they're not working in the mornings, going to the gate and having a little run down the road. So they are all still trotting about. That female's still pregnant, isn't she? Yes, that back one there, look. She's got still a little baby to come. It'll be nice to see some new impala lambs. Yes, Rebecca, I hope that the two of you do not look pregnant, or that you aren't pregnant, but you certainly, both of you, do not look pregnant, so you don't need to worry about that. But, ooh, delightful. You're pregnant, we'll forgive you, but that was not very ladylike at all. Anyway, right, so our impalas are still moving around, and I wonder if we're going to get to that part now where we're going to have the sort of second round of birthing. Now, when I refer to second round of birthing with impalas, is that there's generally 2 ruts in the season. So you'll have a rut that starts in April, May, and then another one that's normally around June, July. And why there's these 2, I don't know. It just kind of happens that way. Maybe it's to just try and sort of give some of the other males that are younger, their testosterone is still built up, and they harass the females, and maybe they get some of the other females and are able to get them pregnant. So you do get this sort of flush of little impala lambs late in the season. So I'm sure there's going to be a few more new ones around. Now, this is exactly where we had the impala's alarm calling, facing straight in the direction we are. Just on the other side of this thicket is Triple M. Now, I drove Triple M. I didn't find a single track crossing there for anything. The only thing I saw a track of was elephants and a hyena. So I might have missed them. It's a difficult road to see tracks on, particularly in the light that we've got at the moment. So I'm not 100% sure. It also, like I say, could be a skittish leopard that doesn't really want to be seen, in which case it's making life a little harder. But what I'm going to do is just go up vertella access now. There's a little mud wallow that's not far from where we are, and that's a great place for a leopard to stop and have a drink. And you never know, maybe this leopard walked along this thicket. I know that it gets very dense in here, and that pops out straight at that little pan, so it's worth checking there. So, Ali, wondering if Tumba is too young to have a new territory, or if he has secured himself a territory. So Ali, no, he's too young at the moment. He's definitely not a territorial male, much like Hosanna. Neither of them are territorial. They're still living within the confines of where their mom sort of protected them and grew up with them. So that's what they're both doing, and they are doing it very successfully in the end of the day. But Tumba, what has happened is he's shifted a little further south than what we saw of him in the winter months, and that's 2 reasons for that. One is Tundi is obviously, gotten pregnant, she's had her cub, and so her tolerance for her cub is pretty much 0 at this stage. She doesn't want that Tumba around at all when she's got another mouth to feed, and so she's probably chased him a little bit. And then second to that is that he's had to compete with a lot of others. Leopard tracks are on the road here, going straight northwards. So he's had to compete with a lot of other things like Hosanna, Tingana, quarantine, and so that's forced him a little to the south and kept him down on the southern boundary. Now, these tracks are still going northwards here at the moment, so I don't know, we might have just missed this leopard, or he's at the pan, like I said, which would be really good news if he was. I should have just carried on up this road and checked, but his tracks are going this way. The pan is just on my left hand side here, it's not very far at all, so he's gone off the road into this section. I wonder if he's not just lying down somewhere here. We're just going to have to keep our eyes peeled, and maybe we'll get lucky. Right, now I'm trying to see if this leopard is here. I'm going to quickly check this little area, because at least now I've found his tracks and seen where he's going. Hopefully he's going to be somewhere in this area, but while we do that, let's go all the way to the Masai Mara and say good morning to Brent.
Welcome to another moody, misty morning in the Mara, and my plans have just changed, because look at this during the rain last night. And this is on top of my tracks and Taylor's tracks, and we were the last 2 cars in here. Look at all the lion tracks. So they must be behind me somewhere. Well, they could have changed direction again, but I definitely think it's worth having a look. Quite early in the night last night, because it rained for quite a while, But we can see those tracks nicely. Good morning, by the way. My name is Brent Smith. I have Adrian on camera with me today. And I think I'm going to look for these lions. Remember, if you have any questions for us, #SafariLive is the best way to get hold of us, depending on whatever platform you might be watching. Okay, change of plans. I just want to see where Madam McCurdy is. And we've got some lovely crepuscular raids. Actually, let's have a quick look at that. And hopefully the lions roar while we're waiting. Here we go. With all the sort of misty, cloudy weather we've been having in the Mara, it's quite nice to see a little bit of light creeping through the clouds. Come on, lions, give us a roar. Or don't. So this looks like, from the tracks, I can only see tracks of the adult female. Oh no, the cubs are here as well. There are tracks of the cubs as well. Heading back up the hill. Let's go turn around quickly. I just want to see where they leave the road, and that'll judge which way I'm going to go. Now, while we do that, we can catch Madam McCurdy unawares, because I can see her yapping away to Jean-Ray. So they could be... Hang on. I saw some topi looking a little bit nervous, and I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just trying to get down to the bottom of the hill. Well, while we follow these tracks directly towards Taylor, let's jump on board with Taylor on her vehicle.
Good morning, everybody. We have found some Brents in the Mara, as you can see, and an Adrian driving towards us. Brent has found lion tracks. I have found a Brent. What a great start. I'm such a great safari guide. I was just saying, look how I found my first animal for the day.
Lion tracks.
Oh, is that what they were? I thought they were from a domestic cat. I'm joking, Brent. I'm just joking. Look at him.
I worry about this child. I really do. Bye-bye, hurdy birdie.
Okay. Hello again, everybody. My name is Taylor McMaddy, and on camera with me today is Jean-Ray. Jean-Ray does not like to eat buffalo or butterflies. Now, for those of you who have just jumped on board and are joining us for the first time, it's so great to have you. Remember, this is a live and interactive safari, and I'm sure Brent has just told you, but I'll tell you again, in case you have goldfish memory, like me sometimes, and you can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can talk to us via the YouTube chat. Now, we're not going to go in the same direction as Brent. I think what Brent's going to say is that those tracks go all the way back up the escarpment and into his tent. I think that's where he's going to take you. Perhaps he'll make himself a cup of coffee in the kitchen. Who knows? We are going to head towards the hyena den, and which is a little bit of a way away from here, but it is such a nice day. I think we might be lucky and have those young cubs playing around again. I know how you all enjoy watching hyenas so much, and I'm very, very excited to see what happens there, especially after yesterday. There were two very small hyena cubs that were still pretty much black in color, and they were fighting quite savagely. So it'll be interesting to try and figure out if they're girls, if they're boys, probably female, to be honest. But yeah, just interesting to see what happens. So that's going to be our plan, I think, for most of the day. Who knows, maybe we get lucky with those Magoro lionesses that gave us a slip yesterday. I think they just went off into the shade, but perhaps they would have come into an area where we can drive off-road, which is not too far from Hippo Pools, in fact. So yeah, so that's kind of the plan. You know that I didn't hear one lion roar last night, which is so interesting, because normally when they've come up this way and they go up towards the escarpment, they make quite a bit of noise. But there were lots of hyenas chatting away. It was quite interesting sitting and listening to all the various vocal calls that they make. I actually wish I had a proper ambient mic, because it was so beautiful. It would be terrifying for those of you that have never heard hyena, because you think they would come and ravage you in your tent, but you'll be safe. Well, we were all safe. We all made it. Okay, where are we going to go? We're going to go this way. I'm just deciding on my route. If we're going to go the river road, or shall we go down the escarpment way? Maybe the escarpment way. I'm just trying to think which is going to be the least slippery. I don't feel like mudding today. not even a little bit. Not much out here, unfortunately. It's very quiet. But that's typical. We've noticed the same trend now. It kind of takes us a little bit of driving. Now, Cheryl, you're wondering if the roads are graded here? Yep, they are. As you can clearly see, these aren't just roads that we basically driving over all the time. They spend a large portion of their time in the Mara Triangle keeping the roads up to standard. Remember, there's lots of people that come and visit us. Not all of them are in these 4x4 vehicles, so there do need to be some roads where normal, two-wheel drive cars can come through and will be safe. Although this road gets quite muddy, and if you slip off into the sides, into these little gullies on either side, I can tell you, even in a 4x4 car, it's very difficult to try and get out. So yes, we actually have been seeing him over the last month, in fact, doing quite a bit of road maintenance. They were doing some yesterday. Jean-Ray was very concerned. There was one fella that was walking around in a brown overall on the phone, just in the middle of nowhere. And I've been seeing them over the past few days, all repairing the roads. And then I said, no, I think he'll be fine. I'm sure his team is on his way back. And then around the bend, there was a tractor coming towards us with the next set of gravel to lay down on the roads. So he was fine. Wasn't really too worried about him. He probably lived longer in the bush than I have and would know his way around. Very quiet. Very, very quiet. Right, we're gonna head straight towards the hyena den. Maybe we see some lions along the way, who knows. However, Tristan is doing quite a bit of tracking down in South Africa, searching for the big dominant leopard.
I feel like Taylor McCurdy has, you know, we had an advert in South Africa about a certain cereal and getting it all in the morning, and I feel like Taylor has gotten it all this morning, and that she is very, very full of it this morning, and that means that we're all going to have a good laugh by the sounds of things, because Taylor is always very funny when she's in a good mood. She makes me laugh, that's for sure. So we'll just have to see how that plays out, but it sounds like she's got some plans, and that hopefully she'll be able to find something of interest. Now, I'm still tracking this leopard. I'm just driving the sort of tracks that I found that it came off the road and they were heading in this direction, and it gets really quite dense and quite thick in here. So what I want to do is just follow the tracks through and see, maybe, just maybe, I come out somewhere where this leopard maybe went, and we find it either lying down or we find a situation where it's crossed out, but definitely is moving up and down on the road back there, and kind of going, like I say, straight towards this mud wallow, which at the moment seems as though this leopard is not actually going to be sort of here, because I came past this mud wallow just now just to see what was going on, and it's here off to my right hand side, and there's no sign of any leopard sitting anywhere near the water, which I was hoping for. I was hoping they was going to have a drink, then have a little lie down under one of these trees. So First Lady, wondering if there's been any sign of Kuchava and her cub. So First Lady, no, I don't think there's been any sign of the cub. Certainly I haven't heard anything about a cub yet. I just know that she was seen with suckle marks. Don't know at all whether she's been seen since that today. She might have been seen in the south. I haven't really been down to the Chitwa side much at all over the past few days, and so for me it's been a little difficult to keep up with what's going on. Maybe Noelle would have heard an update on her side, but the last I heard is that was the case, is that she had given birth, but nobody had seen the cubs. Now those cubs theoretically could only be maximum, I can't remember when Noel saw it, was just before New Year, could only be around sort of 3 weeks, or not even 2 weeks old, so they're still absolutely tiny. So I doubt anyone's going to see any sign of those cubs for the next little bit. I think it's going to be a situation where it'll probably take another sort of 2-3 weeks until those cubs are actually found, unless somebody just happens to bump into them somehow or follow her and she leads them to a den site. That's most of the time how it happens with leopards, is if she's comfortable enough to take you to the den site, then you get to see them. Otherwise, unfortunately, you have to just be patient and wait. We've been spoiled with Tundi, that she's allowed us an intimate look into her little cub's life from fairly early on. I mean, it was about 2 months when she started to... Well, there's an Egyptian goose. I thought for a second I had spotted a leopard because I just saw movement out the corner of my eye. What an Egyptian goose is doing here, I have absolutely no idea. Now, I'm confused thoroughly. There is no water anywhere near here that would sustain an Egyptian goose to even float or bob around, but I suppose if you're a grass eater, then, well, anywhere is good. It's probably not the best place to be, though, because if I was a leopard, I would hunt an Egyptian goose out here just for the fun of it, so it seems like it would be a fun thing to do. What do you think, Seb? You agree? Yes, Egyptian geese are not anyone's real favorites, to be honest. They tend to make quite a bit of noise, but it's a very strange place for an Egyptian goose to be, that's for sure. No tracks there. You can see we're on Triple M now, so my hope for finding this leopard is dwindling by the second as I drive through here. Thought maybe, just maybe, it might be lying up in these quarry thickets where we are right now, but it doesn't seem like it. And you can see that we're going to come out right at that road that I was telling you about earlier. So that's One-Eyed Pan Road, which is a thoroughfare for animals. There's a little pan just here that is pumped, and so it's nice clean water, and that means that particularly in the winter months, a lot of the animals will make their way straight towards this area to try and go and drink. Sorry, Seb, be careful there. All good. And here comes a vehicle flying down the road. Right, I don't see any trucks crossing here anywhere. I'm going to keep looking, double checking, triple checking. While I do that, let's go to a rather gentle scene of a Ellie feeding along with Noel.
On our search for Tundi, we have found an elephant, a young male elephant. He's just busy moving this way, so I'm just trying to get us around so that we can get a better view of him. Slowly feeding through the bush. There was some tracks of a few more elephants here as well, so I'm hoping that we manage to pick them up. That should be okay for now. Oh, Brent, you would like to know what a female elephant is called? Brent, a female elephant is a cow, and a male elephant is a bull. It has to do with their size, and then the baby would be a calf. You're not going to come to our little muddy pan here. All right, we'll keep going around the corner and get another view of this beautiful little Ellie bull. I'm just going to turn the back of my head. I'm just in here. Oh, Cobalt, you'd like to know if we've seen Fang recently? Cobalt, I haven't seen Fang since before Christmas, but I don't know if when I was on leave just now that if anyone else managed to see Fang. Maybe we can ask Tristan, because when I went on leave, Tristan came back from leave, so we can ask him. I'm just going to stop roundabouts here, and then we should get some views of this Ellie coming through the bushes. I believe all of you were wanting to know if we had any more information about Kachava as well. So Kachava, as when we saw her last, was heavy pregnant. And then since then, I haven't personally seen her. I would guess that she would be denning. But if she is denning and no one's seen her, I mean, that cub's going to be very tiny if she's already dropped. So what we're going to be looking for is her and then suckle marks, and that's how we'll be able to tell. Because she spends a lot of time on some of the places that we can't access, we're just going to have to wait and see, or talk with some of the other guides. And as of now, not quite sure what she's up to, but my guess would be is that she's dropped already from the size of her pregnant belly the last time we saw her with that interaction with Tingana. Now, don't worry, when we do get information, we will pass it along. That is for sure. And our elephant bull that was very nicely walking in this... Aha, here he comes. I can just see his legs coming through that weeping wattle. So underneath that weeping wattle, you're going to get a lot of very palatable grasses. And one of the things that... he is doing is looking for that, and now he's also just eating a little bit off of the weeping wattle there, or testing at least. Preston, I believe you're asking about the toenails on the elephant's feet. Those are, in fact, toenails. African elephants have 5 toes in front and 4 toes in back. 4 toenails in front and 3 toenails in back. Indian elephants will have 5 for both toes and toenails on there. Our elephants have just lost the need to have the complete set. So other than eating, he is smelling quite a bit. Earlier he was smelling in the air and then putting his trunk in his mouth and sort of processing that data. And remember, we were talking about there's other elephant tracks around. So I think he's possibly following behind a herd. I can't hear the herd at the moment, so I don't know how close they are, or if they're maybe just a little bit farther off. Sorry, I was just listening for a second there. He's old enough where he shouldn't be with a breeding herd. He should be on his own, but he's young enough that detachment from the breeding herd would have been recent. So he'll still feel the need to want to be closer to the herd. And also, he hasn't found an older bull. They don't always do it, but they sometimes form what's called an Ascari relationship with an older bull, sort of learning how to be an adult elephant. And it doesn't look as if this one's found anyone to hang out with. So he's got a little bit of an early bachelorhood. We hear that black-headed oriole in the background. Choo, choo. That's a horrible rendition of it. It is quite loud in the back there. See if we can get him on screen later. So remember, they only digest about 25% of what they eat. So in his search for this herd, he's just going to constantly feed as he goes along. Eating grass, eating leaves, eating any fruits he finds, any tubers he can dig up, although they tend to do tubers more in the winter season. What I'm going to do again is I'm just going to move up along the road to keep him in visual, because if we manage to get any marula trees that still have fruits, it would be nice to see if he'll eat those. Ooh. Chitty Chatty Meg, really interesting question. You want to know, do the males ever go through a sort of depression when they get kicked out of the herd? Look, Chitty Chatty Meg, I'm very trepidatious to go too much into anthropomorphizing elephants. I do believe that there is some emotion there, but I don't think that we can equate too much to how humans do, because we as humans don't even fully understand our own emotions properly. What I will say is you can see that it's traumatic for the herd as well as for the youngster when they're busy kicking the young male out. There's a lot of screaming and crying, and then them being quite forceful to move him out, and then trying to move the herd on, and him following and coming back, and this can go on for several days. So I don't think it's pleasant for anyone involved, but the depression aspect of it, I think that when you are dealing with animals in captivity and you're dealing with scenarios where they're not in their natural environment, you will see symptoms of them that we can equate to something like depression. But I think in a natural environment, that is something that is not necessarily preeminent in the animal emotional sphere. I think a lot of what happens with that research that's done with captive animals has more to do on the boredom side. Remember, this is my personal opinion, on the boredom side as opposed to a sort of depression side. Now, domesticated animals, I know there's even more research and thought process that's gone into that, but usually when we're talking about, for me in particular, when we're discussing any of the wildlife, I'm exclusively talking about wild animals in the wild and taking captive bred animals out of any scenario, as well as domesticated animals, unless, of course, we're talking about African wild cats and how they can mix in with domesticated cats. So I think that it's not a happy moment for him, but I don't think that, he's not unhappy right now. I know everyone gets sad because he's on his own, but I don't think he's unhappy. DMV, good question. You're asking, when I say crying, do I mean actual crying with tears or crying noises? So elephants don't have tear ducts, so they can't actually cry. So I mean crying noises. So you know when they trumpet and go, Rrr! And then you know when the little ones are trying to nurse, but the mom won't let them nurse, and they make that sort of wailing, crying, whining noise. That's the noise that I'm particularly thinking of when dealing with that scenario. All right, he's starting to hide behind the bush. Let's pull forward a little bit and see if we get one more hopefully decent view of him. He's being super relaxed. We're still on our lookout for Tundi. Here we go. This is going to be much better than his bum in a bush. So where I'm thinking that Tundi might be is just behind where this elephant bull is a drainage system, and on the opposite side are those pans where Steve had her drinking. So as far as I can tell, I think that she's maybe in there. We haven't seen any tracks coming into Milwaukee. Really? Now you have to go behind another bush? He's super cheeky. Let's pull up one more spot just up in front here. This is what happens when they keep moving. Cheeky wildlife doing your own thing. Now, something I do love is they sometimes climb halfway up these termite mounds. And when they do that, that's pretty funny. And if the termite mound is super wet, I've seen them sort of climb up and then rub themselves on it. Let's see, I don't think he's going to do that today. But I do think he's going to potter around in amongst these bushes and around this mound for now. I can hear the other elephant. Or at least one other elephant. But I've got my earpiece in my one ear, and my other ear that is out is my ear that doesn't hear very well, so it sometimes takes a while for me to find direction. I have a feeling it was just a little bit farther back. So there could be another bull here that we just haven't seen yet. Remember, a lot of their communication is using the subsonic vibrations through their feet and the sort of infrasonic sounds. I feel like that tree is an issue, Davi. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try... He didn't move the way he was supposed to move right away. We can try that. I think he knows that we're watching him. I don't know if any of you guys were watching maybe a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago maybe. Ferg and I had this crazy elephant bull that was bigger than this that just didn't want to leave us alone. He kept coming up and investigating the car. They know that we're here. They're aware that we're here. And I do think, look, we were talking a little bit about trying to be careful not to put too much emotions on them. But I'm just going to say this as well. I do think that a sense of humor is present sometimes, particularly with something like an elephant and an elephant bull. I have a feeling that they do things on purpose to aggravate human scenarios, that's for sure. There's a chin spot batis. I'm trying to see if we can find this chin spot batis so that you can see him and hear him. He's not doing his full call. He's the one that goes 3 blind mice. Here, up on top of the tree at about 1 o'clock. So, yeah. Beautiful. There he is. Oh, and of course, he's busy following his mate around, but that was a very brief glimpse at a chin spot batis. One of the few bird calls that I can mimic. We've got hornbills in the background doing their call as well. Den's cockatoo, you're curious to know how far the sound that the elephants project through their feet and or feel through their feet can travel. What I've read is that it can travel up to 60 kilometers, 60. So pretty far. So the theory behind that is that every elephant in Africa can talk to every other elephant. Like a big game of telephone. You can actually see inside his ear quite nicely there. See how intricate those I want to call them ear flaps, but the folds in the ears are? So that allows so that not too much can get inside, but you will see them sticking their trunk in there sometime. One of you, Bex, will get your name just now. Gizmo, you're saying that you think their ears look like the shape of Alaska. That's hysterical. I always think that they look like the continent of Africa. But I guess we could shove a little bit of Alaska love in there, no problem. I'm loving that you can see all the veins. If he flaps his ear forward again, sometimes he needs to do it just a little bit more. You can see the vein network now, a little bit on the outside, but if he flaps it forward, you'll actually see the intricate vein system on the backside, how they heat and cool themselves there. Maybe if you screenshot it. And that backside of that ear is soft like velvet. It's one of the softest things I've ever felt in my life. So, many years ago, we had a bull elephant who got into a fight with another bull elephant, two big ones, and our elephant had his tusk broken, but far up inside. So there's a little bit of bush in the way, but you can see where the tusk, which is your two front teeth, your incisor teeth, you can see where it starts to go up into what would be equated sort of like a gum. Okay, so it broke up farther than you can see that where they meet in there, and when that happens, especially when there's jagged edges, it creates an infection, and sometimes that infection then goes to the brain. So sometimes the elephant's just left to carry on that way, but on this particular property, the owner of the property decided that he wanted to bring the vet in and do something about it, because he was afraid the infection was going to get bad enough that the elephant was going to start being horrible to the game drive vehicles with the guests in them, which is a fair enough thing. So we brought the vet in, and I was lucky. I was asked to help track the elephant, and then we found him, and then we were able to assist the vet in helping to smooth out the tusk. So what happened after we tracked him is the vet came in, and then we darted him, and now they're put to sleep, but they're not fully asleep. All of the wildlife where they're moved or worked on or anything like this, they're never fully asleep. A little puff back strike calling there. They're never fully asleep. They are just immobile. So you have to make sure to put a little stick inside their trunk so that they keep breathing, and then you pour lots of water on them. And so after we had done the tracking part, we were then asked to help out a little bit here and a little bit there. And part of that, the helping from my end, was first we had to move him onto the other side of his body. So we had to tie up his legs and then very slowly move him with hands and vehicle and move him over to the side. And then I got to help pour water on him and feeling his body. It's the most incredible thing, the feel of an elephant's body. All right, let's head up to Brent, who is maybe pretending to be an elephant in the mud. I didn't quite hear that, but we'll see what he's up to, and then we'll carry on with Tundi.
Want to stay on the one at the back? Oh, he's gone. Yeah. We've got a grumpy yellow-throated longclaw who keeps chasing quail finches. So you can see there's the yellow-throated longclaw, and just behind it's a whole little flock of African quail finches. And the longclaw keeps chasing. I'm hoping we're going to get a view of the male quail finch, because they are very pretty. Just to the left of the longclaw, there, Adrian, keep going to the other side of the vehicle track. There we go. There's a little male quail finch. And there's a little female. Oh, and there comes the longclaw, being very grumpy this morning, just chasing them away. Now, of course, quail finches eat grass seeds and that, so actually no competition for the longclaw at all. But He just doesn't want other birds around him this morning. Now, I heard... Oh, listen to that. Isn't that beautiful? That is robin chat. So let's go a little bit further down the road, see if we can spot the robin chat on the edge of the shiny forest. At this time in the morning, sometimes they sit up and they like to call from a more prominent position, because normally they're skulkers that hide in the thickets. Now, unfortunately, the lion tracks have gone into this forest where we cannot get in. I'm just moving along the edge of the forest to see if the tracks come out again. Let's see if we can find this robin chat. Sounds like there's quite a nice little bird party here on the edge of the forest. Let's just listen for a second. It's somewhere in this vicinity here. Of course, everything goes silent the moment you stop. Let's have a look on top of that dead tree, that one there. Not the robin chat, unfortunately. But what do we have? I just saw you have... Oh, it looks like a lovely dove, a Cape turtle dove, and a dark-capped bulbul. Yep, dark-capped bulbul. I can hear turacos from here as well, not too far in. There we go. Robin chat has gone absolutely silent now. There we go. It's a red-eyed dove, and you hear it's calling. It even tells you what bird he is. I am a red-eyed dove. I am a red-eyed dove. Oh, turacos. I want to get a turaka on camera this morning, so I just want to move back to where I just came from. I think the turaka is on top of a tree just behind here, so I'm going to move back to a bit of high ground. Now, I've got a question about turakas for all of you, and you can tell me how many species of turaka occur in the Masai Mara. Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answer. How many species of turaka occur in the Masai Mara? Okay, there we go. And we're just going to have a... Oh, now the robin chat starts calling again, Murphy's Law. I think we might get a view of the turaka from up here. Just... position ourselves up here on the high ground. Let's have a little listen and a little look quickly. It's one of the spots in the Mara where I really wish I could just jump off and go for a wander bird watching through here. I'm sure there's lots of fantastical birds inside these forests. So let's have a look on the tops of the trees. And that's where the turakas are more than likely going to be sitting. Of course, they have gone absolutely silent. Theme. Let's see if we can find a bird. Kristen is wondering, are there any birds that I miss from the Sabi sands that we don't hear in the Mara? Ooh. Trying to think. White-browed scrub robin. Definitely miss the white-browed scrub robin. Sorry, I'm just trying to... They've gone absolutely silent now after talking and talking and talking. I'm just going to do one more blast with my binoculars to see if I can spot any movement at the tip tops of the trees. Evil Taracos. No movement? Oh dear. Well, that's okay. We'll keep moving. Oh dearie, dearie me. Now, I mean, I'm trying to find something that's about this big, that flutters at the treetops in thick forest. So I think I can be forgiven for not finding it just yet, but I don't know if we can forgive Tristan for not finding a leopard yet.
Oh, Brent Leo Smith. Unfortunately, the reality of the situation is that you are looking for a bird in about 100 times the space that I'm looking for a leopard. So you have far more opportunity to drive around to find it and look through your forest than I have to find my leopard, given that my leopard's tracks are now only about 20 meters from Triple M and still going in the westerly direction. And so even though if I wanted to see this leopard, I'm pretty sure and certain that it's already crossed. I'm just doing one last ditch effort in amongst all of these quarry trees because a leopard could easily hide in here, but the last track I had is not even, like I say, 20 meters from the boundary, still facing in a westerly direction. Interestingly enough though, it is not just for a male that is here. There is a female now accompanying this male, so maybe that's why Tingana moved all the way up here, is because, well, he smelt a female around and decided he's going to come and investigate what was going on. So two different tracks, and I was hoping with me walking about that maybe I would hear some sort of sound of the two of them together in case that there was some mating action, but alas, I have heard nothing, and therefore I don't think that they are still here. I think they have crossed over. There's a number of cars that are driving on Triple M, which is making it very difficult to be able to actually see or hear or do anything in that area, and so I'm pretty sure the tracks have been squashed. So I doubt that this leopard is still on our property. Like I say, I mean, I would be very surprised within the 20 meters, which is this thicket, that this leopard was still here. If it is, it's going to be a celebration of note, but I'm 99.9% sure that it's already crossed out into Simbambili, which is interesting. I'll try and get hold of the guys and see if they manage to find these leopards on that side of the world. No, nothing there. I mean, a big male leopard in this area, even though it's very dense and thick and there's a lot of quarry trees and those kind of things, you should still be able to see him. It's not, the grass is not very long here. The grass is still fairly short, and so we should be able to spot a leopard, you know, even if it was lying down in the grass. So you can see with those guinea fowl, it gives you an idea of just how short the grass is, because those guinea fowl are fairly low to the ground, and even they stick out like a sore thumb. So a leopard sitting, lying down, sleeping, whatever it may be, would be fairly easy to see if we get within a certain distance. Once you go off past sort of 10 meters, then you can see it becomes a wall and you can't see anything at all. Right, well, we'll try and, like I say, just check one last time, but the road's right here, so I'm 900% sure now that I've gone through this thicket that there is no leopard here, and therefore crossed over into Simbambili, and unfortunately we must have missed it by minutes. Our Ellies, as much as they were beautiful walking down the road, what's that?
No, that impala is still there. We're still looking.
So Seb says he can see an impala that's still kind of staring. He's been there for a long time. We saw it earlier from Triple M, still staring in this direction, but it doesn't look too perturbed. The fact that it's kind of just grooming itself doesn't mean, looks like it's not too sort of stressed. Although, as I say that, it looks at us with a very sort of interested face. Maybe it saw this leopard earlier and that's why it's still a little nervous of what's going on. Very pretty though. Male impalas are beautiful animals, and he will be feeding away at the moment and getting himself as strong as possible, because it's not long now and he will have to start competing for females, and this male is in the prime of his life to be able to compete for females, so he's probably around 3.5 to 4.5 years old, I would place him in that area. His horns aren't massive yet, but they are big enough still for him to challenge and try and see if he can mate, maybe for the first time in his life. So it's a big year ahead for this young lad, and so hopefully he'll avoid the leopards and make sure that he gets out of here and is able to then contribute to the genetic code and the movement of impala lambs going forward. Right, well, he seems to be relaxed. He's feeding now, so I'm pretty sure everything is all right. Like I say, this was the only area that I thought they could be sleeping. There's no other way that they are still on our property, so unfortunately, close but no cigar, as they say. We were very, very close, and we almost had it. And like I said, I think we maybe were 10 minutes behind this leopard when those impalas were shouting. Was just after that leopard must have come through. So unfortunately we didn't have any luck with it, but that's okay. It's the way the cookie crumbles, and you've got to work for leopards sometimes. It makes you appreciate them that much more. Right, I'm going to head out to this area. I'm going to go look around for some other things, see what else is about, maybe head off to Chitwa. While I do that, let's go back across to Noelle, who's also had a fruit this morning in her search with Tugby.
Yeah, sorry Tris, it looks as if our leopard magic is not with us today for either of us. I'm just checking along the drainage line. I personally can't find any tracks of Tundi going into the Mulwati. So I have a feeling from where she was with that kill, which was just down here, where she drank with Steve, which was just behind us, where she moved into is now inside this drainage line here. So this drainage line is a very difficult drainage line. It is not one that we can easily access. So what I'm doing is I'm just checking little spots here and there. Some for tracks, and then just some for what I would think would be good leopard hiding spots, like here. In what a nice little spot. But that being said, she really could be anywhere. And so it's very... I think she's done this on purpose, and I think she's done this on purpose because I think she's finding that where she was before is not working for her anymore. And so now she's looking for something in here. Again, not far from where she was, but just that much more difficult for all of us to figure out. Okay, so, and as we stall out, while I'm busy navigating the treacherous passes here, Taylor has some hyena cubs, so let's head on up to her so that you can enjoy that cuteness, and hopefully we'll find Tundi soon.
Hello everybody. We're enjoying, of course, the hyena cubs. We're back at the den, but they are very, very, very relaxed. Rebecca, are you getting my comms? I am talking, so I think there seems to be some tech gremlins this morning that are attacking us. There's a little bit of a delay, however, but we are here sitting with the hyenas as they play. Hi again everybody. So we're watching these young hyena cubs. They've just had a suckle. Let's take another look, because what I'd like to try and do today is figure out how old these hyena actually are. Now, and so I find it particularly difficult, and I don't think it's very easy. You know what, Jandre? You know what's so cool? Some tiny little wax balls. I don't know if you can see that. Oh no, they're flying around. They're collecting just there. Sorry, that's pretty amazing. We'll go back to the hyenas. What are you? It's one of these little birds that I've never seen in my life before. What are you, a finch? I don't know what that is. I'll have to try and figure out what that is. But they're collecting the hyena. It looks like they're collecting bits of grass in the air. There was another one. What are you, Hatilia? Anyways, I'll figure out what bird this is now. Perhaps you've seen it already with Brent. I've never seen that bird in my life. Anyways, so they were collecting between bits of grasses and then also some fluff, which I would assume would either be from maybe a dead animal or most likely from the hyenas, and taking it back as nesting material. But we'll get back to that because they're fluttering around. Now, the youngsters have all had a good drink of milk. They've all got nice full bellies. Arrived. Everybody was fast asleep. We can still see those two older cubs that we were watching yesterday. They're not misbehaving. They're not chasing one another around. They are, of course, suckling while all the little ones, the younger ones, play. Now, yesterday I was saying that there's one cub in this clan that walks around like it's the boss. And I wonder if it isn't the boss, because it was going over to every other hyena and snapping and holding on and shaking its head, but not just to the young hyenas, to the adult hyenas too. But I haven't seen a matriarch here yet. And this being the North clan, which is quite a well-studied clan, I'm pretty sure the matriarch will have a collar on her, but I have yet to see her just yet. And I'm also certain that this is the main part of the den. I'm sure there are lots of other dens around here where the lower-ranking hyenas might still be hiding their cubs away, because they wouldn't want to bring them to a den site like this until they're a couple of months old. It's quite a tough life for a low-ranking hyena. Never mind a low-ranking hyena cub. Tend to get bullied a bit. You see this little one's going in now. It's had enough. It's had a suckle and then gone, right, my belly's full, I'm going back to bed. Good night. Hello, girl. And it's a beautiful scene, though. Well, they're not vocalizing like the ones that were making a lot of noise yesterday. But what I did find interesting is how quickly these little creatures fit their voices. I mean, we know that the adults, we can hear their call from quite a distance. But with lions, it takes them, a year and a half, 2 years to really sort of find their voices and to be able to roar, or at least start attempting to roar. When they're young, it just kind of comes out of... But these guys can vocalize quite quickly. They're already doing that laughing we heard yesterday, sort of growling. And I have been at dens before where youngsters have tried to whoop as well. So it's quite amazing how quickly these little ones develop. Well, this is so precious. And I don't know if the adults managed to find big meals last night. They don't all have huge bustling bellies like they typically do after a night out. Where are you going, girl? You're going to fetch your youngster? Are you going in? This is an interesting angle. I wonder why she's put her head down in the den like that. Maybe just making sure her little one is alright. They're really good mothers, hyenas. They're very affectionate when you sit and you actually spend time with them and you watch them. The interactions between mom and little one, it's quite cool, in fact. But we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay here and hope that these young cubs become curious. Brent is not too far away from us, and he's got an elephant moving across the plains.
Well, last night we had an elephant traffic jam. This morning we've got an elephant traffic jam. A nice herd coming out of feeding in the forest and heading out into the grasslands as the sun starts to get a bit higher. So we're just waiting patiently for them to cross the road so we can continue on our adventures. Isn't that beautiful? Slowly, slowly moving into the grassland. I was almost hoping they might find the lions for us in the long grass, chase them so we can see them. But alas, I think the lions are still in the forest somewhere. Isn't that beautiful? Just that lovely, peaceful morning scene. And let's move a little bit further down the road there, Adrian, so we can have a look at those little baby up ahead. And as we came around the corner, the elephants just started popping out of this little patch of forest. And this is right on the periphery, so it's a bit more open. But as you get down towards where the little stream is, it's very thick forest in there. Proper thick forest. Well, we've got quite a few answers for the Tarako question. We had a 5 from Aaron, a 10 from Carla, and Fido. You are spot on. Indeed, it is 2. Now, some people would consider go-away birds to be Tarakos. They're not true Tarakos. They're sort of under the same family, but they're not true Turacos. So there are two. There's the Scallows Turaco and the Ross's Turaco. I know Jamie has showed you Ross's Turaco before, but I don't think we've ever managed to put Scallows on camera. Here we go, Ellie's the last three crossing the road with the little one. So those of you who are not sure what a Scallows Turaco looks like, it's part of the green Turaco complex. So there's quite a few different green Turacos. But I'll show you once the Ellies have moved off a little bit. Oh, that female, if you come to this way a little bit, she looks quite pregnant. Big belly. Very pregnant female. Now, there's a forest not far from here called the Inquiry Forest that is actually often called the elephant's maternal forest. There's a story that all the elephants from the Mara, in the top end of the Mara, go there to give birth. However, like the elephant graveyard, it is a good story, and there's very little fact based in it. So seasonally, the elephants would have definitely moved into that forest from the Mara to feed, specifically if figs and things were fruiting, but they would much prefer to be out here on the grasslands than in a thick forested area. Not to say that there aren't some resident herds there, but the story that they migrate from here to the Inquiry Forest to give birth is like the elephant graveyard story, a very good story. Terry's wondering how big the forests are. Historically, the whole top of the escarpment, the Inquiry Forest, and also south of our camp, there were massive forests, but over the years they have been heavily depleted by the charcoal industry, and the Inquiry Forest is one of the only intact protected bits of forest left in this area, and it is still under huge pressure from illegal logging and charcoal. Well, there we go. As the elephants move away, we'll show you what the Scallows Turaco looks like. So there we go. That is the Scallows Turaco. So I said part of the green Turaco complex. Quite a lot of them, and this one has got one of the most impressive crests out of all the green Turacos. Now, I've seen them quite a few times actually in camp. I've heard them calling down here on the edge of this forest, but unfortunately we haven't managed to get them on camera just yet. But I think what we'll do is we're going to look for rhino, and we're going to see if the lions came out on the other side of the forest. So we're going to go around the edge of the other side of the forest. Maybe we'll have some Turaco luck from the other side. Oh, it looks like we've got more elephants up ahead on the road up well. So all the Ellies coming out of the forest after last night, but they're on the move as well, heading out into the grasslands for the day. So while we sneak past them, let's go back to bundles of cuteness, and of course I'm referring to the hyenas, not Taylor McCurdy.
That's mean. What are you talking about? I'm way cuter than the hyenas. No, I'm just joking. The hyenas are way cuter. I do ooh and ah at them. I don't do that when I look into the mirror. Anyways, that bird we saw was a new bird for me, an African quailfinch. I don't know why I haven't seen them yet. Brent has been telling me about them. We'll have a look at a picture in a little bit. But how sweet is this little cub? And it's just poking its head out of the den. And I love the way they go up and down. It's kind of like Bob the Weasel. Bop the Weasel. Bop the Weasel? Yes, that game. We didn't play that game as a kid. That's from watching all the American cartoons. I can't remember what the equivalent of the game that we played. I think it was with frogs at the arcade center, or spiders that you had to kind of squash that would pop up. But anyways, it's all fairly quiet this morning. No one's as active as they were yesterday. Yesterday they were bounding around a little bit more, but perhaps the excitement is going to continue as those two are playing a game. Who are you scared of? Keep putting their heads out and then dropping back down quite quickly. They're all very curious. What are you looking at, little one? There's nothing around. I don't know if you can maybe smell something that I can't smell. But they are quite nervous. And I will tell you something just now. Now, Anna Marie, you're wondering how far down underground do I think that hyena den is? Well, you can see that the tunnels are quite wide. I've never been inside a hyena den before. And like we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about how many other animals will utilize something like this. So from porcupines to aardvark to warthogs and, of course, hyena, mongoose, and much smaller creatures too. So depending who's been using it, you might have found they could have altered it slightly. So porcupines dig quite deep burrows, and so do aardvark, do the same thing. But a hyena is quite big, so I would imagine that it goes a fair way down, maybe about another meter. And you wouldn't want to drive over one of these because you don't know how thick the layer of soil is on top of the ground, and could quite easily collapse underneath you. I'm pretty sure, I mean, this is quite a large den, so I think there's going to be quite a few chambers. Whether they all join, I'm not so sure. Like I said, I haven't been in here, but if it was something like a warthog that was maybe using it, all these tunnels might join up, and they've got lots of different entrances and exits that they can use. Being a little bit submissive. Isn't that sweet? See, there we go. There's the intimate bonding that I was telling you about. Going over grooming, nudging. But it's amazing. Even when these youngsters approach their mothers, they're very submissive. They sort of go down, ears quite flat. They lower their body. Sometimes they just also just go charging in when they're a bit bossy. This one's a few weeks old. Maybe it's hard to say. I think it's quite difficult. But I would say maybe 6 weeks old. Somewhere around there, maybe 7 weeks old. Oh, he's not too small to be picked up, though. Here we go. Mom's moving it now, saying I've had enough of you. Now, Scarlett, you've asked an impossible question, I'm afraid. You said how many males and females are here. It's exceptionally difficult to tell the difference between males and females. I even know that the experts take their time, and I don't like to try and sex a hyena that is not an adult. I think it is very, very difficult. So there are a couple of different ways you can. It does help when they do greeting ceremonies, and the reason why I say this is because hyenas often, and kind of like dogs, when they meet each other, they sniff one another's backsides, essentially. But both male and female tend to get an erect penis, if you will. Of course, the females don't have a penis. It is just an elongated clitoris, but it can be a bit confusing, of course. So when you see that, now I know this is the nitty gritty, but I suppose if you want to learn how to sex hyenas, we've got to get into it, eh? Otherwise you can also just pick up a book and read, and I'm sure there's some wonderful documents. They say that the tip of the penis for a male it's typically a lot wider than it will be on a female when you're looking at them, and that's why I say when you have a greeting ceremony, I find that the easiest, but with these youngsters it's still going to be quite difficult. They haven't quite developed all the parts just yet. So I'm not even going to take a bash at it. You're welcome to. You're all more than welcome to take screenshots and form your opinions. However, I shall wait until they are adults. But there were two very young cubs. I haven't really seen them out this morning. They were much smaller than the ones that have been running around. They were still completely black in color. I think those may have been two females, because they were fighting quite a bit. Now, Michael, you're wondering, how do the hyenas in the Mara move their cubs in comparison to the ones in Djuma? Well, I have never seen hyenas moving den site before. Never. I mean, I've seen their tracks, and often when you see their tracks and it looks like a whole clan has moved from one spot to the other, I would assume if they're old enough, they'll just walk next to mom. Or you might find if they've got two cubs, like we see with leopards and lions, when they are moving dens. Oh, how often? Sorry, not how. My bad. There we go. But anyways, how they might even carry one. And hyenas do carry their cubs around quite a bit, as you saw one trying to do just now. How often? Well, they don't want to be moving their cubs too much. I mean, typically those youngsters will stay undercover for the first 2 to 3 weeks of their life, kind of like a lion. Like a lion doesn't normally move den sites too early. She'll want those youngsters to have their eyes open and sort of to be fumbling around. I would imagine it would be the same with a hyena, maybe even less times. And there are lots of other dens around here. I mean, there must be between 5 and 7 other dens fairly close, within just a couple of 100 meters of this, because we've driven around and we found all these empty sites. So I don't know, with a big clan like this, it is quite a large clan. I mean, I've been told that there's over 80 members in this particular group. I haven't seen all 80 hyena together. I probably won't see them all together unless they were all feasting on a massive carcass, like if an elephant or a hippopotamus died in the vicinity. Then you probably see most of the clan gathered. Otherwise, it's not very common to see them all at the den site. Remember, there will be others that will be at den sites. So I'm not really sure. At Djuma, I'm just trying to think now, with the one den, I mean, they seem to move quite frequently, in fact, as they were on Philemon's cut line, and then a few weeks later we just stopped seeing them, and then we discovered that den on Gallagher Short, or between Gallagher Pan and Gallagher Shortcut. So I don't know, they seem to move them around at Djuma a lot more, but there might be a lot of outside, factors that influence that. Some animals are quite sensitive, and that's why it's very important to be sensitive around dens and not try and get too close, and keep your distance, and make as little noise as possible. Obviously talking and things like that are fine. You can see they're not really worried by the sound of my voice at all, except that hyena cub's going to get into trouble. You're not supposed to be suckling from her. They move for things like that, food sources, possible lions coming through, another clan of hyenas pushing them out. So there's a number of different things that can encourage a clan of hyenas to move dens. But it is normal for them to shuffle around. Like I said, they've got a couple of dens all over. In the Mara, however, I can't give you an exact timeline, I'm afraid. When I chat to Emily, if I go and have coffee with her, I shall ask her if she's got any notes on that. She's been studying them for quite a long time. But I think this could be quite cool. We'll probably sit here for a little bit longer and see what they get up to. Tristan is still tracking away down in the heart of the Sabi sand, looking for the cat that appears there most.
No, the answer to that is I am not, Taylor, given that it looks like he's crossed out into Simbambili with that female. So now I'm looking at a Cape turtle dove or a ringneck dove eating on a white berry bush. You can see those big bright white berries that are there, and they absolutely love these. So you'll find doves and all kinds of other birds on these whiteberry bushes over the next few weeks as they devour every little whiteberry that they can find that are nice and ripe. And you can see it's quite selective. It walks along and it looks for the whitest of the white, because they start out a little green and then they kind of go into a lighter shade, and eventually they become this very white coloration, and that's when they absolutely love them. And you'll find all the birds kind of go crazy for these little berries, and they are tasty, I'll admit it. They are pretty good. I mean, they're got a bit of a green taste to them, so a little bit kind of, if you've eaten a leaf, it's got this sort of, I don't know what to say, it's almost that chlorophyll kind of taste. It's weird, but it's got that kind of greenish sort of taste to it. But they're quite sweet, and they're quite delicious and very good for you. So they are berries that even us as people will eat, and like I say, the birds absolutely love them.
Just don't eat the pips.
Just don't eat the pips.
They're very bitter.
Very bitter. There we go. So there's tip of the day from Sebastian: do not eat the pips of the whiteberry bush because they are bitter. Right, let's carry on though. Our dove has flown off and has decided to find another bush to go and feed on. I wonder what else we can go and find. Now, the Sticks and Birmingham singular, I don't know where the other two went, but the Sticks and the Birmingham male are lying just south of Gari Main in Little Gari, so they're not far. Maybe this evening we'll get them coming over and coming northwards towards the boundary. And then no real other updates on any other of predators in the area, so we're going to try and see if we can find them. Now, I believe Brent Leo-Smith hasn't found his Tarako yet, I don't think, and so he's failing as miserably as I failed this morning, but he has found another feathered friend that apparently is very, very little, and maybe it will make a nest in his hair.
Okay. Look at that, guys. Now, isn't that a pretty little bird? Now, there's quite a few different species hopping around, and what I'm trying to see, oh, where did it hop to? Don't go down into the grass. Is there's a whole lot of waxbills and where are the others now? Where have they gone? There, directly opposite me. So a little bit to the right, a bit more to the right. Well, there we go. There's some more out in the open. Now, it is one of the little waxbills. Now, you got to be quite careful. Ooh, there's some other birds in there as well. So, what we're looking for is a red face mask. Do we see? No, just stay close in on them. It's got a little black cap as well, and some of them have a little bit of red on the beak. Now, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a new bird species for a lot of you. This particular one we're looking at now. Isn't that pretty? Little seed eaters. That is a black-headed waxbill. A black-headed waxbill. Oh, off they go. Now, there were some common waxbills as well. Let's go back across to in front of us here. So often with the waxbills, you have quite a few different species sometimes feeding together. But most of these look to be black-crowned waxbills. But I'm pretty sure I saw a little common or red-rumped. I didn't get a good look. Ah, there we go. Right on top. No, don't fly away. That one there. Quickly. Don't fly away. Don't follow. No, that's... is that another black-crowned? Yeah, oh, no, it wasn't. It was actually a little common with the red face mask and quite a dark head. So it's quite difficult. They're just popping around. They've just come across to the right, Adrian, unless you've spotted one there. So there's this little thicket. There we go. You see them all pobbling around there. Let's see, what do we got there? It looks like another little... Oh, and a rattling testicular, just for good measure. So that looks like a little female black-crowned waxbill there. Isn't this beautiful? And you can see there's some more in the back. Most of them are black-crowned waxbills. We've got a little rattling testicular up in front. Wait, is it a rattling testicular? Was that... No, it's not a rattling testicular. What call is that? Testiculars can be incredibly difficult, and especially when they're a bit damp like that. And I have to work out what that testicular is from its call. But there we go. There, those little black-crowned waxbills. And just trying to see if there were some commons as well. Now, amongst there's a red rumped, which would be a new bird for me, which I haven't quite seen yet. It looks very similar to the common waxbill, except he's got a red bottom, or a red rump, as his name suggests. We'll let them carry on feeding into the grass. I'm going to try to figure out, by listening to all the testicular calls, what testicular that was sitting on top there. So when they're quite wet like that, and they've been sort of in the dewy grass, they can be quite difficult to identify. Button the cockatoo would like to know, are pied crows common in the Mara? Relatively so, especially in the drier parts of the Mara. If you head towards the mountains to the east of us, around Talek, and Sekanani and Kikarok, yes, pied crows are relatively common in that area. We do see them from time to time in the triangle, but not nearly as often as we see them on the other side of the river. Okay, so we're still perusing the edge of the forest, hoping for a tarako, and also having a look and see if the lions have come out through the forest onto this side. They don't do it very often, the Angama pride, coming all the way through, but I can't find any sign of them actually coming out, so we're going to have a look along the edge of the forest here. Now, as we move away from the forest, we've always got a chance at the small sausage pride. And the grass is quite long here, but I'm feeling lucky. So while I continue my search, let's go back to Madam McCurdy and some sleepy little hyenas.
They're very sneaky. There's one that's annoying everybody in the clan. All the other youngsters have gone back to bed after they have bellies filled with milk, and we know that hyena milk is exceptionally high in fat and protein, so I'm sure they must have big swollen bellies, and those eyes must get quite weary and want to go to sleep after something like that. And I think that's what the adults are hoping too, so that they can also catch up on some rest. But this little one is determined to go around and say hello to all the hyenas, and you're actually being quite nice to everybody, not growling and biting and shaking head, just going over and licking all the others. I think it's bored, this little one. I think it wants someone to play with, but nobody wants to play with it. So it just goes to show, behind the scenes, hyenas are actually very sweet, affectionate creatures. Maybe not to you and I, but in their own... it's actually quite interesting how they're extremists, because, you know, one, they can be so affectionate, and then on the next minute they can turn and they can kill one another at only a couple of weeks old, which is pretty crazy, because you don't see much of that with the other mammal species. Obviously, we see the Cain and Abel syndrome with a lot of birds. It's something that I haven't watched, and I was talking to Brent about it. Brent said he's only ever seen the siblicide in hyenas once. It was when he was in Botswana, but I'm sure he can tell you a little bit more about that, and I'm sure he's probably told you about it before. It was very interesting. I, however, have never seen it, and it must be something quite intense to watch two tiny little black-coloured creatures, you know, fighting away at one another. And then I was reading an interesting article the other day, in fact, that said perhaps a lot of the cases of siblicide are not necessarily because of the injuries caused by the other cub. So what they're saying is that perhaps they get bitten, they get torn up a little bit, and then they aren't strong enough to fight over suckling, and then they eventually become malnourished, and then nutrition can come in. And they were saying that they reckon that might be a higher cause of death, rather than, you know, another one actually physically killing it completely and on the spot. And then Jamie was saying also last night that she read an article that they were saying that they thought that it was a lot of other older females getting involved when youngsters would fight like that. And then unfortunately, well, just getting in the way and succumbing to injuries from an adult, which you can imagine would be much more severe than a young cub biting or chewing at you. Again, I've never seen it, so I can just only read all these different experiences that people have had. But luckily, the hyenas in the Mara Triangle and the Masai Mara have been studied for years and years and years. And so I look forward to having some chats with the hyena researchers. It'll be interesting to hear of their experiences. And I think seeing jackal, seeing hyena, seeing cheetah, this area is just spectacular to come and watch and learn.